Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Who was speaking?
Patsy.
Okay, so give me one moment, Martha. I can hear Patsy in the English channel.
Because I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, am I not supposed to? Should I not be in the English channel?
No, you should be, and you shouldn't hear Patsy normally. So maybe if you can go back
I
in.
can't hear
Oh,
you. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay.
so when we were just doing a sound check. I saw your question there, Patsy.
Fuzzy check the audio.
Okay, and now we're all back
Oh,
together.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, no worry. So maybe you said you couldn't hear Haitian Creole though?
Well, someone in the room said they heard the Haitian Creole, but I think Patsy messaged that it wasn't working.
Oh, okay. Should we try again with the pop-out box and maybe retype Patsy's
Okay.
name? Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
It shows Patsy here as the Haitian Creole interpreter, but
Perfect.
yeah. So should I start it?
I think so.
Okay. And Martha, can you give me just a thumbs up if I should join the English channel? Yeah. Okay. I don't hear any of the interpreters, so that means that it's working, right? And I see some of the council members are joining. As you join, if you could please just change your name or your display name, keep your name and then your pronouns. And Rishi, I forget, were we asking them to say that, to type in that they're council members as part of their name or just their name and pronouns?
Yes, please, that they are council members for sure. And I'm very sorry, I've had all sorts of technical issues. I hope you can hear and see me now.
I can hear and see you.
Okay, and I can't, I still have to get one thing ready here, Val, which is disconcerting and I cannot,
Okay. So Rishi, I'm gonna put up the slides and then you just let me know when I'm okay to start. the
okay.
meeting. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Val, I cannot get my talking points.
I can email them to you right now.
I can't get them up on my screen.
You're viewing on multiple screens?
My screens have done something weird again, which I don't understand, but
But you have it open, it's just that it's not showing.
yeah. Hold on. a
Rishi,
second.
can you send it to your phone and look at them on your phone?
Deneen, I've misplaced my phone this morning.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I have my other computer opened here and I'm just trying to do what I can. So hold on just a second.
So all the people who are doing the language recording, I guess the closed captioning will only show in English and not the language, which I guess that makes sense for Zoom. But so you don't need to have closed captioning on if you are recording in a language.
Val, someone just joined in Teams again.
Closed caption. Where's captions?
Janine, can you help me here with the
Yes.
display again? It's supposed to be,
So you go to your settings,
yeah, I have to duplicate.
system.
I'm so scared if I put down my thing that if I put down my laptop lid, then I'm gonna lose everybody again.
Are you in display now?
I am,
All right, so then go to the bottom to multiple displays,
okay.
extend these displays, save changes.
Okay, can you all see me?
Yes,
Okay. I cannot see a thing. I'm gonna bring you up on my side computer if for some reason I can't, if this doesn't work.
Val, can you hear me right now? And also I see, Val, that you're speaking, but I think you're on mute.
Richie, let me know when you'd like me to start the meeting.
Oh, okay, I will.
There does seem to be an issue with the Haitian Creole channel, Val.
Okay, hold on.
Hold on, please don't start it yet. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Val, will you send me my talking points again?
Mhm, I will. I'll do that right now. Okay, I just sent them, and then Martha, for the Haitian Creole channel, is there anything that I should be doing on my end? Okay, deleting and re-entering Patsy's name. Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna try, if I have 1 minute, I'm gonna try one more thing, if you all don't mind. And Val, you sent me those again, you said?
yeah, I did.
Okay.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
I'm gonna turn that off in a minute, just a second.
Okay, Martha, I did what you asked.
Okay, great.
Can you see me on,
we see you twice.
I can
Rishi.
hear you. Yep.
okay. Is this view okay of me?
Yes,
Okay,
I don't know if anyone else can hear me, so I don't know. I think if you unmute the original audio, then you can hear the English.
I think the Haitian Creole, it's working now. Correct? Yeah. Or can you hear it? The Haitian Creole, the person recording.
That's interesting.
are we good to go except for the Haitian Creole piece?
I think,
Hmm.
I think so.
I don't know.
Are you,
And
Are you not able to hear
I'm
the
sorry
Haitian
you can't
Creole?
hear them. I can hear you.
You can hear me? Did you, so you're in the Haitian Creole interpretation room?
Val, I think we've got to start.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So the person recording the Haitian Creole, I'll just chat with you and we can figure it out. So I'll start our meeting now. Okay. Give me 1 moment, sorry. Yep, I think we're good to begin.
Hello, you have entered the Zoom room for the Environmental Justice Council. Please hold for a moment until more attendees have arrived and we're ready to begin the meeting. All attendees must select a language channel, even if viewing the presentation in English. The buttons for selecting a language channel or American Sign Language are at the bottom of your screen. Closed captioning has been enabled for this presentation. If you would like a translated version of the presentation slides, please go to the Environmental Justice Council website at the link in the chat. You will find a translated set of presentation slides there. Next slide, Val. Good afternoon. Welcome to the third meeting of the Environmental Justice Council, whose members are appointed by the Governor's Office to advise the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, also called by the acronym EEA, about ways to promote and achieve environmental justice principles across the Commonwealth. I am Rishi Reddy, the chairperson of the Council and the Director of Environmental Justice at EEA. In attendance today via Zoom are 11 other members of the Council. In addition to myself from EEA, we have Deputy EJ Director for Internal Agency Coordination, Valerie Cardoso, who is monitoring the question and answer function, also called the Q&A function. You will also see on the screen the interpreters in 6 spoken languages and American Sign Language. We also have more than 50 members of the public and state staff who are registered to observe and comment on the deliberations of the Council. Next slide, please, Val. As usual, this is a complicated meeting to convene. We are running 7 simultaneous interpretation channels in a Zoom webinar format. We'll take a few minutes now to review the logistics, agenda, and introductions. This meeting is being recorded and will later be available for viewing through a link that will be posted on the Environmental Justice Council website. That website address appears in the chat. I remind the Council members to refrain from using the chat function, except for addressing issues of meeting logistics. Please only use the chat function for that purpose and no other communication. Next slide, please, Val. This presentation is available with interpreters in Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, Haitian Creole, Vietnamese, and Cape Verdean Creole, and American Sign Language. I ask the Council members to please speak slowly. Otherwise, the interpreters will not be able to keep up with you. All participants must select a language channel at the bottom of your screen, even if viewing the presentation in English. Otherwise, English language viewers will not be able to hear interpreters when they address the Council in English. A last reminder that translated versions of the presentation slides are available at the link on the Environmental Justice Council website. Next slide, please. I ask the members of the public to save any oral comments to the Council after the formal presentations. You can also submit questions in the Q&A box, which may be addressed after the formal presentations. If you have a question regarding the clarification of meeting logistics as we go along, please type it into the Q&A box where it can be answered by Deputy Director Cardozo immediately. Next slide, please, Val. Here is the agenda for today. I'll be honest, there's a very good chance that we will not make it through the entire agenda today, especially if we have a robust conversation with members of EEA's Environmental Justice Task Force. Even so, does anybody on the council have additional issues within these topic areas that they would like to highlight at this time? Okay. Next slide, please, Val. Here is a roster of the members of the EJ Council. I ask each council member to identify themselves on the Zoom ID line, including pronouns if you feel comfortable doing so. For viewing members of the public, a full list of members of the council is available on the council website, where you can find photographs and biographies of the council members. The address for the website is in the chat. We will use Robert's Rules of Procedure for the conduct of these meetings. These rules require, as a reminder, that for any formal decision-making, a council member makes a motion and another member must second that motion. We will discuss
I think Rishu, you froze briefly.
How about now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. We must vote by roll call. That means that I will call out your name to vote and your vote will be recorded. A simple majority vote in favor is required to pass. I will now take attendance. Kalila Barnett, please just state if you're here. Madeline Fraser Cook.
Here.
Melissa Harding Ferretti.
Here.
Cheryl Tony Hawley.
Here.
Caroline Hahn.
Here.
Namrata Kapoor. Lydia Lowe, please.
Here.
Marcos Luna, please.
Here.
Peter Mathey.
Here.
Patricia Spence. And Ari Zorn.
Here.
Okay, for the record, we've reached quorum, so we'll proceed. Next slide, please, Val. The draft minutes of the September 15th meeting were emailed to the council members so that you'd have a chance to review. I'd like some feedback. Does anyone have any amendments that they'd like to make to the minutes at this time? No. If not, I'd like to open the floor for a motion to adopt these minutes with a second for that motion as well.
Melissa Ferretti.
Thank you, Melissa. And does anyone second that motion? Please also state your name.
Cheryl Holly, I second.
Okay, thank you very much, Cheryl. So I'm sorry, I have to go through a roll call here for the vote of present members. So Madeline Fraser Cook, please, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Melissa Ferretti, please.
Yes.
Cheryl Hawley.
Yes.
Caroline Hahn.
Yes.
Lydia Lowe.
Yes.
Marcos Luna.
Yes.
Peter Mathey.
Yes.
And Ari Zorn.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've got a unanimous acceptance here of the amendments of the minutes. Thank you so much. A few announcements that I have. The first and most important is that EEA's EJ office has a new staff member. Her name is Carlene Lemoyne, who will be joining our office as the Deputy Environmental Justice Director for External Stakeholder Coordination. Carlene, would you like to say a few words to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Council. First, I'd like to say how happy I am to virtually meet all of you. It is truly an honor to be in this forum with everyone today. To give you a brief background about me, I previously worked for the Department of Public Utilities, where I was involved in several environmental justice projects. Some of these projects included the agency's environmental justice strategy. I served as task force member and environmental justice point of contact for the agency. I was one of the lead team members of our environmental justice team, and I also led the language access program for the last 2.5 years. My former colleague, Scott Siegel, I apologize, Scott, who is a hearing officer and the interim environmental justice point of contact, will be presenting to you shortly about the many great initiatives the Department of Public Utilities has undertaken in the last few years. In my new role as Deputy Director for External Stakeholder Coordination, your comprehensive analysis in relation to the definition of environmental justice population will likely impact my work in terms of identifying stakeholders and conducting outreach to overburdened communities. That being said, I want to say thank you for the important work that you are doing as we continue to push environmental justice forward. So again, it's nice to meet you all, and back to you, Richie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlene, and welcome aboard. We are so glad to have you. Carlene's first day was yesterday, so this is a great launch for her. Today, we are holding an introductory meeting to EEA's Environmental Justice Task Force. The task force main work in the past 2 years has been developing the environmental justice strategy for the EEA Secretariat. The strategy is in its final stages of review and should be released in draft form soon. EEA will be asking for public comment on the draft EJ strategy. There will be a public comment period of approximately 8 weeks and at least one public in-person meeting. Please look for the release of this strategy in the coming weeks. Lastly, we are getting things together to facilitate smooth meetings in hybrid format structure. To that end, we are canceling the next meeting of the EJ Council on October 12th, which was scheduled from 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening. Instead, the next meeting will be scheduled for Thursday, October 27th. Instead of the original time for that meeting of 11 to 12 during the day, we will be meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. on that evening of October 27th. So please make a note of this time change. Next slide, Val. The next item on the agenda is an introduction to EEA's
I think Rishi is frozen, so we'll give her a few seconds to see if she's able to come back to us. Okay, we see you now, Rishi. I think you're
Okay, I'm going to ask the interpreters to turn off their cameras, please. Everyone except for the ASL interpreter, and for the members of the EJ task force to turn on their cameras. Thank you. The task force was convened in September 2020 under the auspices of EEA's EJ office. It has 21 members, each representing one of EEA's 6 agencies or major programs. These representatives are the primary points of contact, both internally and externally, for environmental justice outreach and information. We wanted to have them give the council a very quick overview of their work so that you could understand how the definition of EJ population affects work across the EEA Secretariat. In addition to communication efforts, the EJ task force members have coordinated with senior staff at their agencies to review agency policies and outreach activities to work towards environmental justice, energy justice, climate justice, and food security across the Commonwealth. I will call out the names of the folks who are here today so that they can very briefly identify themselves to you. I hope you will consider these individuals to be a resource and a source of knowledge as we continue our work on the EJ Council. After these brief introductions, we will hear from 6 task force members to get a very high level overview of EEA's EJ work. Val, if you can remove this slide, we will be able to see the task force members as I call out their names. And what I will do is call out the agencies and have people jump in with information. So first I'll call Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, MDAR.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Davidson, and I am the Strategic Initiatives Manager for the Department of Agricultural Resources. My areas of expertise include food access and security, environmental justice, and food systems planning. I am working to progress environmental justice priorities at the Department of Agricultural Resources and look forward to sharing a little more with you soon in this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. And from the Department of Conservation and Recreation, do we have someone here?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge J. Ayub. I am the Senior Coastal Ecologist for the Department of Conservation and Recreation. I help DCR with environmental compliance and protection of the natural resources across the coastline of Massachusetts. And I also work on climate resiliency projects to help protect the existing natural resources, recreational facilities, and the nearby communities along the coastline of Massachusetts.
Thank you, Jorge. The Department of Environmental Protection, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Deneen Simpson. I'm the Director of Environmental Justice at the Department of Environmental Protection. My role at DEP is to ensure all Mass DEP staff have access and resources to ensure that they are complying with the EJ policy. I am also the Department of Environmental Protection's Program Manager. It's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deneen. The Department of Fish and Game, please, DFG. Maybe we'll have Jimmy come in a few minutes. The Department of Energy Resources, please, DOER.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danilo Morales. I work with the Department of Energy in the Energy Efficiency Division. Most of my work is focused on the Merrimack Valley, more specifically in Lawrence, Andover, North Andover. And the main focus of my work is after the Columbia gas explosions, the Attorney General Office and the Department of Energy signed settlement agreement. So the coming years, we will be implementing different kind of energy efficiency, electrification, and clean energy technologies implementation to all the people impacted with the Columbia gas explosions in 2018. So that will be the main focus of my work for the coming years. And other areas of expertise for me are energy equity, energy justice, environmental justice, and some multiculturalism in general. I'm glad to be here. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much, Danilo. I do see that Jimmy Rosignol is on. So the Department of Fish and Game, please, Jimmy, if you're able to let's see if we can hear you.
Sure. How you doing? My name is Jimmy Rosignol. I'm with the Mass Division Marine Fisheries. I've been with the department since 1999. And I am a marine biologist, currently specializing with the diatomaceous fisheries.
Jimmy, I think we're having trouble hearing you. So I don't know if that's something you can fix or if it's related
hear
to.
me?
Yes, better now. Yeah. Okay, why don't we come back if we can? I'll call out the Department of Public Utilities, please.
Hello, my name is Scott Siegel, and I am a hearing officer in the Department of Public Utilities Legal Division. I am one of 2 presiding officers on the department's inquiry into public access at the department, which I will explain in more detail a bit later, and was involved in drafting the department's environmental justice strategy.
Thanks so much, Scott. And also we have Wayne from the Energy Facilities Siting Board.
Hey everyone, I'm Wayne. I'm an analyst with the Energy Facilities Siting Board and also the Department of Public Utilities. And our work is working on siting large-scale energy infrastructure in the Commonwealth. I have to jump off really soon, but I'd be happy to take on questions by email or later on. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah.
Coastal Zone Management, please. I don't think we have.
Tyler was unable to join today.
Okay, thank you, Val. And Office of Environmental Law Enforcement, I know also has a representative named Captain Kevin Clayton to the task force. He was also unable to join us today. Geographic Information Systems, integral to our mapping efforts, please.
Hello, everybody. I am Dominique Polavon, and I assist EEA and the Office of Environmental Justice with spatial data and spatial analyses.
Thank you, Nikki. Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Tori Kim. I am with the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, but I head up the so-called MEPA office within that executive office. It stands for Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act office. We conduct reviews of large-scale, both private and public projects for the environmental impacts of those projects. And I'll be speaking in a bit to give more detail about our environmental justice initiatives, but I'm glad to join today.
Thanks so much, Tori. The Office of Technical Assistance, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carrie Sass-Fortis, and I'm excuse me, I'll start over. I'm an environmental health specialist and toxicologist by training. I serve as the outreach and chemical policy analyst for the Office of Technical Assistance. Our acronym is OTA. And at OTA, we provide free and confidential technical assistance to companies in Massachusetts that are using toxic chemicals at threshold values that are covered under the state's Massachusetts Toxic Use Reduction Act. And at OTA, I serve as our agency's lead on environmental justice strategy and work on chemical safety and climate change resiliency.
Thanks so much, Carrie. And the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carrie Ann Petrick, and I am a climate adaptation specialist and the regional coordinator for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program in the Berkshires and Hill Towns. And I am also the Equity and Engagement Technical Assistance Coordinator for our program.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. I believe Rishi's frozen, so we'll give her another second. Okay, I'll just continue until Rishi's able to rejoin, but we'll now hear from let me share my screen. We'll now hear from 6 task force members about the EJ work that their agencies have initiated in the past 2 years and some ways in which the definition of EJ population affects their work. We'll begin with Tori Kim, the director of the MEPA office.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Again, my name is Tori Kim. I head up it's often referred to as the MEPA office. I think that's a little bit easier to pronounce than the full name. And I also serve on the task force with our assistant director as well. Just to give a brief overview of what our office does, the primary mission is to conduct reviews of the environmental impacts of a wide range of both public and private projects. So those projects could include real estate development, as well as a wide range of infrastructure projects such as roads, bridges, energy infrastructure, water, wastewater, as well as solid waste infrastructure as well. In terms of our environmental justice initiatives, before I go there, I want to also add that we do seek to ensure that the projects are taking all feasible measures to avoid or minimize environmental impacts. And public participation is a key component of our review procedures because the project filings that are submitted with our office do go out for public comment and review. So to provide an overview of the environmental justice initiatives, there's a slide here that gives that overview. The primary initiative is to implement certain directives that were imposed on our office under legislation that was passed last year. And the key component here is that for any projects that are proposed near environmental justice neighborhoods, and that is defined as quote unquote the EJ population under the statute, it requires a more lengthy and more comprehensive environmental impact review process, including the preparation of environmental impact reports. So the basic procedure is for those projects to file initially an initial notification of the project with our office, which goes out for a comment period. And then it's then required to prepare more comprehensive and extensive impact reports, each of which would undergo a public review and comment process. So it's a fairly complex process that is now required for all projects located near environmental justice populations, and that's either a 1 mile radius or a 5 mile radius. That's the primary initiative that we're working to implement, but as is shown here, there are a variety of other initiatives that we are working to complete, including the maintenance of a list of community-based organizations, as well as tribes and indigenous organizations. And this list is used by our project proponents to conduct public engagement activities around EJ neighborhoods. Last year, we also issued regulations as well as guidance to project proponents about community engagement, as well as how to conduct an analysis of potential impacts on EJ populations. We're also working to develop trainings and outreach to EJ communities, as well as looking to improve internal operations, including site visit procedures and language services that our office would provide as part of our review procedures. So in terms of how the definition of environmental justice population impacts our work, it has a very direct impact on how those new statutory requirements are implemented, because depending on how the EJ population is defined, it directly affects whether a project is required to undertake that lengthier and more stringent review process that I described earlier. So if a certain neighborhood is defined as EJ, then a project located near those neighborhoods, either 1 mile or 5 mile, would have to undertake that more comprehensive environmental impact review process. But if you are excluded from those neighborhoods, then it would not be subject to the same requirements. There are less stringent requirements that would, in some cases, still apply to that project, but the lengthier, more comprehensive project that's now mandated by the law would not apply. The definition of EJ population also informs the types of community engagement strategies that may be required for the project, because again, that review procedure, as well as the associated community engagement and public involvement requirements, would apply to those projects as well. And then finally, it would affect the nature of language services provided during the course of that project review. So that's my short overview. It's a fairly complex program, and I'm happy to take questions as needed at the end of the program. So with that, I'll turn it over to my fellow task force member with the Department of Agricultural Resources, Rebecca Davidson.
Thank you, Tori. And good afternoon again, everyone. I wanted to provide an overview of the environmental justice initiatives happening at the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. Our mission at the agency is to help keep the food supply of our Commonwealth safe and secure, and to work to keep Massachusetts agriculture economically and environmentally sound. Our environmental justice efforts have been guided by the overall goal of equal access and meaningful involvement of all people living in Massachusetts, especially with respect to environmental protection and equity in developing, launching, and accessing information and resources. As we began our work towards these goals, we noticed that our environmental justice efforts would be most successful through coordinated and consistent implementation. So we formed an internal environmental justice task force within the Department of Agriculture that meets every 2 weeks. As we all know, this is a long-term effort, and we recognize that there is a lot we need to do to address environmental justice. But we're proud of where we are going so far, and I'm thrilled to share more on our top 5 initiatives and receive feedback as appropriate. Our first initiative focuses on improving language access. We have completed and launched a process for our internal staff to make translation and interpretation requests. We are also in the process of launching an external translation and interpretation request for our constituents to use. This is an ongoing effort. As Tori mentioned, we are also active in the meaningful involvement of community-based organizations through engagement and outreach. We are fortunate to have deep relationships with many organizations, but we are learning of organizations that we need to be better in touch with. And we are working to identify those organizations and conduct intentional outreach and engagement. Disseminating information on MDAR grants and programs. After initial conversations with some of the trusted community-based organizations that support our environmental justice neighborhoods, we recognized that an initial first step towards equity is to raise awareness of our grant programs and services. To that end, we are developing a paper handout that we will translate and disseminate through community groups, alternative media, and mail to farmers that may not be aware of our programs. Training on web-based workshops and webinars. One of the ways that we can improve access to our programs is by having virtual education. We have trained our agency staff on how to run webinars and provide support to increase web-based education on grant writing tips. Finally, we have hired an environmental justice intern who can help us accomplish our initiatives, and we'll look towards continuing the internship in coming semesters. Next slide, please, Val. Some of the ways the definition of environmental justice population impacts our agency's work. The definition of environmental justice population, as currently written, appears on all our agencies' request for responses. Thus, we encourage applicants to outline how their proposed project will support environmental justice populations in the Commonwealth. The definition is also referenced in the Environmental Justice Map Viewer. Several of our ongoing projects reference the EJ Map Viewer, which is based on the current definition of environmental justice populations. Finally, our agency plans to use the current definition of environmental justice populations to identify areas of focus for food access, engagement activities, and other agency programming. Thank you for having me here today. And I will now pass it over to Deneen Simpson with the Department of Environmental Protection.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good afternoon again. My name is Deneen Simpson, and I'm the Director of Environmental Justice at the Department of Environmental Protection. The Department of Environmental Protection is the regulatory agency that oversees the Commonwealth's natural resources, air, water, and land, to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of all people. This afternoon, I'm going to give you a brief overview about a few of the agency's environmental justice initiatives. The first is the EJ strategy that Director Reddy mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. It is a requirement of the Environmental Justice Executive Order number 552. The strategy, is a document based on our mission that demonstrates as an agency how we will integrate environmental justice into all of our work. Some sections of our strategy include hiring and recruitment, external communication, metrics, language access, training, grant opportunities, enforcement strategies, and cumulative impact analysis, to name a few. Another initiative is our public involvement plan, which is a requirement of the environmental justice policy. This is an internal facing document developed to provide guidance for Mass DEP staff about how to involve and engage with EJ populations when conducting key agency actions and activities. It is more than just translating documents. The public involvement is a collaboration, between Mass DEP and the impacted community. This is an opportunity for the community to have a seat at the table and voice their concerns about a project that may potentially impact them. Next is the air quality cumulative impact analysis, which is a requirement of the climate law, an act creating a next generation roadmap for Massachusetts climate policy. The Bureau of Air and Waste is tasked with developing a cumulative impact analysis for certain air quality permits. The Bureau of Air and Waste has already held 12 stakeholder meetings to obtain input and feedback about the cumulative impact analysis. which includes identifying indicators to aid in the development of the cumulative impact analysis. The Bureau is on task to meet its statutory deadline of the end of the year to have a cumulative impact in place. Next, I'm going to speak about the Senior Equity Team. This is a team of senior staff convened by Commissioner Martin Suberg after the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. This team meets weekly to discuss diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental justice. Commissioner Suberg has tasked this team with identifying ways as an agency that we can be more inclusive and accessible, both internally and externally. The last initiative I'm going to speak about is an environmental justice resource page. This is an internal resource page that I developed to assist Mass DEP staff with tools when conducting outreach and engagement in EJ populations. This page consists of final public involvement plans, fact sheets, links to EJ maps, language access resources, an environmental justice contact list, the environmental justice policy, and an environmental justice team member list, which is a part of DEP. This page is updated often as more resources are developed. Next slide, please, Val. Some ways the definition of environmental justice population impacts Mass DEP's work. All Mass DEP staff must be aware of the EJ population definition to ensure appropriate engagement is conducted based on the criteria met for the particular community, whether it's minority, income, or English isolation. All agency staff must also identify the criteria met before conducting key agency actions and activities. This is done through training and having available and accessible resources at the agency. I look forward to talking further about these initiatives and receiving feedback as appropriate. Thank you for your time, and I will now pass it on to my task force members, Scott Siegel and Colleen Lemoyne.
Thank you, Deneen. Again, my name is Scott Siegel, a hearing officer with the Department of Public Utilities. The department oversees investor-owned electric power, natural gas, and water companies in Massachusetts, and the safety of natural gas pipelines, bus companies, towing companies, moving companies, common carriers, and transportation network companies. Housed within the department is the Energy Facilities Siting Board. The Energy Facilities Siting Board is an independent state board that reviews proposed large energy facilities, including power plants, electric transmission lines, intrastate natural gas pipelines, and natural gas storage tanks. The department administratively supports the work of the Energy Facilities Siting Board, but the Energy Facilities Siting Board makes its decisions independently from the department. Both the department and Energy Facilities Siting Board hold administrative hearings on various matters. The Energy Facilities Siting Board's focus is mainly the siting of new energy facilities. The department's hearings may include rates charged to customers, licensing actions, or other enforcement activities involving the entities the department regulates. The department and Energy Facilities Siting Board have taken many steps over the past few years to address environmental justice related issues. The first thing I want to highlight is that the department and Energy Facilities Siting Board, on their own initiative, opened companion inquiries into procedures for enhancing public awareness of and participation in our proceedings. The department docketed its proceeding as DPU 21-50, and the Energy Facilities Siting Board docketed its proceeding as EFSB 21-01. On August 25th, 2022, we held a joint virtual stakeholder roundtable at which 12 interpreters were present, provided simultaneous interpretation in 6 different languages. Next step for these proceedings have yet to be determined. In addition, we have undertaken numerous efforts to address environmental justice related issues at the department, including establishing an environmental justice team, an environmental justice point of contact, directing the electric and gas distribution companies in certain proceedings to procure language access services for both translation of notices and interpretation services for public hearings, more plain language in our notices, and contracting with a language access service provider to provide interpretation services for incoming calls for non-English speaking members of the public. Carlene, did you have anything that you'd like to add at this time?
Thank you, Scott. I'll just make a very quick comment in connection with the last initiative regarding the vendors. I would like to point out that inward facing initiatives are as crucial as outward facing initiatives. Within a short time frame of having the vendor service in place in conjunction with using staff who are linguistically competent in other languages, customers started submitting positive remarks to the agency, acknowledging the improvement. So by breaking down some of the language barriers, we were able to create a more productive exchange between the customers and the staff. So as we work to achieve environmental justice principle, I just want to say that it is essential to be reminded that using plain language, which cannot be emphasized enough, and reducing language barriers by providing effective translation and interpretation are truly vital to the efforts of enhancing public access and engagement. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you, Scott. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlene. And Val, next slide, please. In addition to our efforts to increase the distribution of our notices and our outreach efforts over the past few years, the department has addressed environmental justice issues in our orders. For cases that impact a specific municipality, such as a municipal aggregation case, the department has taken additional steps to address environmental justice concerns, such as including special bill inserts that inform affected customers about the proposal in the top language or languages spoken in that municipality. In cases that impact more than one municipality, the department has, in certain instances, approved proposals to provide additional funding or services to environmental justice communities, proposals to delay increases in rates to avoid rate shock, and rate mitigation proposals. The division of the department that regulates rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft is currently in the process of establishing a program to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from these companies while minimizing the impact of the program on drivers from low-income communities. These are just some of the ways environmental justice impacts our work at the department. Thank you for providing us with the opportunity to speak today. We look forward to working with EEA and the Environmental Justice Council as we continue to work through environmental justice related issues at the department. Next up is Jade Liu and Beverly Craig of the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center.
Thanks so much, Scott. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jade Liu and I'm the Clean Transportation Grant Program Manager at the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, also known as MassCEC. So MassCEC is a quasi-state economic development agency, which is basically a fancy way of saying that we're not a state entity that sets regulation or policy, but we do spend public funding, mostly through clean energy grants and investments. So we spend this money with the goal of helping Massachusetts meet its climate and energy goals, as well as grow the clean energy workforce. And I'll pass it to Bev Craig, who's going to go over some of these initiatives.
Thanks, Jade. I'm going to cover five different areas, 4 which are new grant programs in the last several years, and 1 program that's been around for 10 years that's been slightly modified. The first is Accelerating Clean Transportation for All. This is a grant program to help community-based organizations and other organizations to help decrease transportation burdens and increase clean transportation access for underserved populations. So far, this program has provided $5 million in awards to 10 different projects. The Empower program is a grant program to help community-based organizations find ways to access energy efficiency and clean energy in previously underserved populations in the state. That program has awarded to 32 different organizations to date, and there's a lot of learning between the different groups going on right now. Mass CEC just in the last year started providing grants for minority and women-owned business enterprises. This is to organizations who can help minority and women-owned businesses gain expertise and lines of business within expanding clean energy and efficiency opportunities. So for example, electrical contractors learning expertise in how to put in electric vehicle infrastructure, or heating and cooling companies that are minority owned, getting more expertise in heat pump installation. That grant program so far has awarded 9 grants, totaling $2.7 million. And those collective efforts should help 199 different minority and women-owned enterprises in the state. Just recently, there have been grants beginning in our workforce training grants. These are focused on getting residents of environmental justice communities trained for the jobs that will be expanding as we meet our state's climate goals. I would encourage organizations who are interested in this to take a look at the $50,000 planning grants that are going to be rolling grants to assist organizations in finding partners with existing workforce training in the state. Those opportunities, the next round of those will begin this December. And finally, there's a 10-year-old program that Mass CEC has been running called our Clean Energy Internship Program for the last 10 years. And it has placed 5,000 different students at clean energy jobs and reimburses organizations $18 per hour. That program has always tracked fairly well with college enrollment, but we've increasingly been focusing on community college enrollment, certificate programs, and holding a number of those slots available for gateway communities. And because we would like to see even more diversity within that program, the last 2 years, we've hired recruiters to recruit underrepresented students to those jobs, help them get placed and get support. I'll hand it back to you, Jade.
Thanks, Beth. Next slide, Val. Thank you. So yeah, just to take a step back a little bit from our specific EJ initiatives, we wanted to give everyone an idea of how we think about our environmental justice goals and environmental justice populations within the framework of our overall mission. So you'll see here on the slide our value statement, which basically breaks down how we think about these goals, again, within the overall framework of our mission. So it's really 2 main ways. So we think about the equitable distribution of benefits associated with clean energy, which include health benefits and economic benefits, and also thinking about how to support a more diverse and inclusive clean energy industry. And hopefully you've gotten an idea of how we do this from the previous slide. And then we also wanted to outline some of the key strategies we think about in achieving these goals. So the first one is pretty straightforward. We're thinking about how do we change and consider our grant making practices and our programs to achieve these goals. So Bev just went over some programs that are sort of specifically designed to reach environmental justice populations. And then we also think about through our other grant programs, how do we prioritize projects that are in EJ areas? How do we think about lowering barriers to accessing our funding by reducing or eliminating any like match requirements? So obviously the definition of EJ populations would sort of change how we think about prioritizing our funding. And the other main thing that MassEC does, that Bev talked a little bit about, is really thinking about knitting together the right stakeholders and building capacity in, for example, community-based organizations to engage in clean energy. And a lot of what we do there is try to be strategic in our outreach and talk to the right people and connect them to the right other people. So we've been doing more and more of this sort of work recently with Empower and Workforce, of bringing folks together in usually a virtual room and thinking about capacity building. And we're also offering in various programs capacity building and planning grants with the goal of folks accessing larger funding opportunities.
Jade, I'm sorry to interrupt right here. We still have Carrie Ann who needs to speak about MVP, and we're starting to lose folks because one, we started 5 minutes late and we're right at the 1 o'clock slot. And I want to give Carrie Ann a chance to talk about MVP. And I also, if members of the council can just stay 5 minutes over, 10 minutes over, whoever would like to have the opportunity to ask questions of folks on the task force, I would like to allow that opportunity too. So I don't want to cut you off, but I do.
Oh no, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Jade. All right, and Carrie Ann, are you on?
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Carrie Ann Petrick, and I'm the Berkshires and Hilltowns Regional Coordinator for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. It's a pleasure to speak with you today on behalf of the MVP team. Our program is a climate adaptation grant program for municipalities that sits in the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. We offer 2 sequential grants, beginning with planning grants that support municipalities and community advocates to identify climate vulnerabilities and develop potential actions to adapt to these vulnerabilities. Once a community has completed this process, they are then eligible for action grants, which range from $25,000 to $3 million for individual projects and $5 million for regional projects. Action grants focus on developing, permitting, and implementing priority projects from the planning grant phase. Our program is committed to centering equity and environmental justice. One way that we do this is through our action grant scoring criteria. Out of 100 points, 24 of them are for environmental justice prioritization, community engagement, and letters of support. Our program promotes and funds a community liaison model to help facilitate relationship building between municipalities and communities that have historically been excluded from these spaces. Additionally, we are revamping our planning grant process, where, working with a vendor, we have created an equity council to guide the process and make certain that voices from environmental justice communities are central to the new process. We also have an EJ toolkit on our website that provides guidance to communities on what equitable climate adaptation looks like. Next slide, please. There are a few ways that our program runs into challenges with the EJ definition. The first way is working with rural communities who rarely ever meet the population density thresholds to qualify as a neighborhood. However, this does not mean that EJ communities do not live in rural spaces. There are also several other vulnerable identities while not in the EJ definition, for the purposes of climate adaptation, also need to be centered. Working with the EJ office, we developed a climate vulnerable populations definition to offer our communities a broader perspective when thinking about climate vulnerability. However, EJ groups are always prioritized. Finally, our program has found that when municipalities look to the EJ viewer map to determine if they have an EJ block group, and if they don't, they do not consider questions such as, why are there no environmental justice neighborhoods here? Has an EJ community lived here in the past? And does my municipality have an impact on adjacent EJ neighborhoods? And what can we do about it? Thank you so much for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Rishi.
Thank you so much, Carrie Ann. I know that we have just thrown a lot of information at the EJ Council, and we are also over by about 5 minutes now, but it was a real privilege to have everyone from the EJ Task Force here today, and I thank you for coming. I do want to open it up for a few minutes for folks from the council to ask questions if you have any, or any general discussion with task force members. I wanted to provide this baseline foundation of information so that as we go forward in our work at our next meetings in terms of the population definition, you all have an idea of the work that's going on at EEA and the breadth of it. So I'd like to open it up to the floor now if anybody had any questions, comments, or topics you want to address to task force members you've heard from today.
This is Marcos. I have a comment. So first of all, thank you all to the task force for presenting to us. This is really nicely done and really informative about what's going on across Massachusetts government. I wanted to note that I appreciated Mass EC mentioning, or having a line on the slide at least, saying that there are metrics of how these grants, where they're going and how much of them are going to EJ populations specifically. And I'm curious about the other agencies in terms of how they do that. I know it's a broad question, but it'd be nice to know where there are metrics or other kinds of reports about the level to which resources are being devoted or channeled toward those communities.
Bev or Jade, are either of you able to speak to that?
Sure, yeah, happy to. So this is something that we have started recently doing in FY23. For us, that starts like this past June or July, and we have like an internal grant management software where we track things like, you know, how much funding is going towards each award, where is the project happening, that sort of thing. So basically what we started doing internally was including fields in each award record, basically about whether that project is happening in EJ area, and you know, whether there are goals around like DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if it's like you know, a workforce award, that's where the main goal is to increase the diversity of the clean energy workforce, we would count that award in that category. So we really just started doing this, and we're hoping that this will be like a good pilot year, and then we can think about how to use that information to set goals for our programs and that sort of thing.
Any other questions? Members of the task force have their email addresses available on the EJ page at EEA, so any direct questions can also be addressed to them there. We can also call folks back, I hope, if people will accept to come in and go into any issue in greater depth if people from the council request that. But if folks have any more questions now, I do want to allow that opportunity just for a minute or two more. Okay. If not, I have, I'd like to close out this meeting. And Val, could you go on to slide 29, please? I think that's where slide 30, please. And we will hold off on questions from the public until next time. I apologize for that. We had some technical difficulties today, and we did have some jam-packed presentations. So we will hold off on questions from the public until next time. As I said, our next meeting will be on Thursday, October 27th at 6 p.m. in the evening. And we're proposing that current agenda items would be to decide on the work report issue. What would our work look like from the EJ Council and the process by which we would reach that work product? And the initial question that we might ask ourselves, which I'd like to open up discussion for next time, is what is missing in the definition of EJ population? And with the background that we've gathered now from the EJ table at our last meeting and the internal EJ task force at this meeting, I hope that we have some foundation to answer that question, or at least to have a robust discussion about it. If anybody has any future agenda items that they would like to add, please email Valerie by October 7th. Thank you all for participating today. And if we have no more questions, anybody moved?
I think Rishi is going to move to adjourn the meeting. So this is gonna be my first time doing this, so I'll try. Can I have someone motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn. This is Marcos.
Thank you. And can I have someone second?
I'll second Madeline.
Okay, and then I have to do the roll call vote. Okay, let me go to our list so I can call you out alphabetically.
Val, are we moving to?
Yeah, so we're at the
Okay, thank you.
roll call portion. Did you want to continue? We just started the roll call. I haven't called.
You go
anyone.
ahead, Val. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties. I
Okay.
apologize, everyone.
Who was it that seconded? Was it Cheryl?
Madeline.
Madeline, okay. Kalila,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Caroline? Did Caroline leave early? Okay. Namrita? Lydia, I believe Lydia left at 1. Marcos, you motioned.
Yep.
Peter? Pat? And Ari?
Yes.
Thank you. So I believe that means we're adjourned.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you, everyone.